Hi
Hi
neighbors.
neighbors! Today we're living it up on Amelia Island just outside of Jacksonville, Florida. Yesterday, Tropical Storm Elsa blew through. And we had some windstorms here and lots of rain, but we were not hit by any of the tornadoes. Just north of us in Georgia, St. Mary, Kings Bay was hit with a tornado at an RV park there. And boy, what damage. We are so blessed to be where we're at. And just send our love to everyone that was damaged in that storm. A huge fear. What do you do when a tornado blows through? But we're safe, and praise God for that.
Okay, in today's episode, what we want to do is to share with you what it was like to hit the road in an RV for the first time.
We're living it up, we're gonna make it through. We can see the light, just me and you. We're living it up, we're gonna make it through. We're together for good, just me and you. We're living it up.
Hitting the road in an RV is not so simple. We had to decide what kind of RV we were going to have and how to reach our goal. That in this chapter of our life, we're going to have the spirit of Abraham living like nomads, going from place to place. So we started thinking about it just a little bit. But first, it didn't start just last fall when we took off. It started 2 years before that.
I told Carl, I said, I am ready to travel and see our grandkids. And this is how I think we can do it. So I started showing him vans. Now, you know how small vans are. I even talked him into looking at one, and they are pretty small. Then we looked at Class C's. Now, that's the motor home, the smaller version. And then he said, okay, don't talk to me about this for another year. So I gave it a rest for a year. And then I said, okay, it's been a year.
Let me stop right here though. The first thing that she showed me was some tiny homes. She didn't mention tiny homes. She drug me over to the Tiny Home Festival over near the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. And it's a mind trip. You see not only tiny homes and various styles of tiny homes, but you also see some of the people that are existing in those tiny homes, and you hear their testimonials. Well, that all worked for them, but I could not wrap my mind around getting a tiny home and parking it somewhere out on the farm or wherever it might be and surviving that way. So yeah, we did that for about 2 years, and about a year
Conversation back and forth.
About a year into it then, I said, Selena, don't talk about this for a whole year because I can't keep my mind occupied on what my job is and what my regular routine is, and being pulled by this, give it a rest. So after a year.
Yeah, I put it on the shelf, marked my calendar, and a year to the date, I said, it's been a year. And so he said, okay. Then he kind of started looking. Best place to look, YouTube. See how other people are living. Kind of like what we're doing here. We're going to let people know what it's like to live in an RV. And so he started doing some research. And just out of the blue one day, he says, I found our RV. I almost fell on the ground. I didn't even know he was seriously looking. Whoa, tell him what you found.
So what I was thinking was we needed something to where we were mobile when we arrived. So motorhome doesn't really do that. What we found was a fifth wheel. So a fifth wheel means that you've got a trailer that actually hooks into the bed of your pickup, and you can detach, unhitch, and then you've got some mobility with your pickup where you are. So we found a 2021, it's a Keystone Montana 3120. Is that what it is?
3120.
Yeah, I think it's a 3120. Whatever. It's a 35-foot trailer. So with the Montanas, it's the shortest trailer that they have. And I was thinking I want to stay minimal because thinking tiny home, something that wasn't too involved. But also I was thinking that we wanted to have enough space because I have a few office items that I like to stay in touch with, some of the studies that I'm doing, and just keeping an office going. So just a small section of which I can set up a little office. So
Well-
we decided that's what we wanted.
We closed up our house, so we are living. This is our life in this RV. And so need a little bit of a space there.
So the conclusion of my research and what we agreed upon was that we needed a fifth wheel trailer. So a fifth wheel trailer is larger than just a van. It's larger than a Class C. You can get more stuff in it. For us, it's about 300 square feet, which is not what you want if you want a house, but if you're going with a trailer, you learn to live with it. The good thing about it is it hitches up to a pickup right into the bed of the truck. When you get to your location, you can unhitch, leave it parked, and then you can take your pickup and go anywhere you want to go. So we wanted that mobility, more so than just a motorhome or a van, something like that. So I was doing some research. We even went to some RV dealerships in Denver and Colorado Springs, different places. Decided that we wanted a Keystone Montana. We could not find the actual model 3120 that we wanted. It's a 35-foot trailer. That's the smallest one that they sell, but yet it's big enough for what we needed. So that's where I sort of left off.
It was COVID,
Yeah.
and there was, it was hard to find anything. We're kind of like getting a little bit panicked on the fact that we're not going to find what we want, and we'll have to settle for something else. And then lo and behold, one day I took my daughter back to the airport in Denver, and I stopped at Lazy Days, and I just went in. We'd already talked to one of the salesmen there, and so I contacted him and said, "You got any 3120s on the lot?" And he said, "No, we got one coming in tomorrow though." But he says, "Let me show you this one." So I was like, okay. Well, they did say they had one in the back prepping it for a customer, but I couldn't look at that. They were busy working on it. So we went and looked at another one, and he says, let me run around. I'll be right back. He comes back and he gets me, and he says, "It came in last night. It's sitting on the lot." And I took one step into that fifth wheel and looked around. Well, first of all, as we was driving up to it, there's a solar panel on the roof. And we'll talk about that more later. And then I went inside and I said, this is the exact color scheme we wanted. This is everything in every place. I mean, I started looking around and it checked every box from every little thing that, and we could have ordered it and it would have been perfect. I couldn't believe it. I tried not to get too excited because you don't want to look too excited, because you're not going to get a good deal if you look too excited. But here I am by myself, and we don't make any decisions unless we make it together. So I took a picture from every angle, sent it to him, and I said, "Here it is. What are we going to do? I don't think we'll ever find another one until next year because of the COVID and the shortage and the manufacturing." But anyway.
So I called them up. We made a deposit and got it in contract and closed on it just a few days later after that. So
we got it.
We'll show you more about the RV in a separate episode. We want to give some details about what it's actually like and how it's working for us to live in this RV.
We love this RV. If you just want something simple, nothing too long to pull, it's only 35 feet. And newbies, we didn't want a 40-foot one. We wanted to stick under 40 feet.
Right, so always think about this. If you pull it, you got to park it.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, parking.
But the next thing is getting a truck that's going to pull an RV. And so we had decided we needed a Ford F350 that's a one-ton truck that has a fifth wheel hitch or hookup for the hitch. So two things, you need the truck and you need the hitch. Well, being COVID, there was a shortage on trucks and there was a shortage on hitches. So we found the truck nearby Castle Rock, Colorado, and got that thing under wraps. And then we were looking for a hitch and found out that was harder to get than the truck. And Dave and Teresa came over one Friday night, and I'm telling our friend Dave about not being able to find a hitch online, looking at all the suppliers. He says, well, there's a place right there in Colorado Springs, they sell hitches, just call them up. I called them up and they said there was one that was available that they could find in all the country, and they could have it shipped in about 2 days. So we got that one. It was amazing how we were able to find that hitch And right when I picked it up, Dave came by the house and helped me get it mounted in the back of the truck. And we were all set. So we had the trailer, we had the truck, we had the hitch. Seemingly we were ready to go. It's not that simple. You have to get everything so that it's all going to be in sync with each other. And first day that we hooked up and decided that we would try some things, we found out that the trailer lights weren't working and had no idea what was going on. What it ended up being was that there was a harness inside the pickup that was not quite engaged. It's like a plug-in harness. So you don't know these things until you hook up a trailer. And then I've got other people that are giving me all kinds of advice. My neighbor Gordon, my other neighbor Lan, and then my other neighbor Travis.
Hey, Travis, did we
yes.
tell you guys?
Okay.
When he looked at our trailer, when it was pulled into the driveway, he said, "Oh, yay, now you get to buy the other $5,000 worth of attachments to go with with an RV." We were like, "What?
Right.
$5,000 worth of
So,
attachments?"
I just really don't like it when people are correct about things like that.
Yeah, he was correct.
Yeah, he was correct. So we got it hooked up, and first trip to Texas, we did it in two parts. We had to separate because we decided we were going to go to a family reunion. Selena's parents lived in southwestern Colorado. She took our car, picked them up. I took the truck and trailer, and we converged in Walsenburg, Colorado. And because I didn't have left turn signal, that was part of the lighting problem, I told Selena that she's going to have to follow me all the way for our 800-mile trip, and anytime I wanted to turn left, she had to be right glued behind me and turn on her left signal. So that's not a great way to travel, but we were able to do that. And we get to Amarillo, we spend the night in a motel because we are traveling two different generations.
My mama's with me, my dad's with him in the truck.
Yeah. Next day we get up, we're going to we're trying to get to Liberty Hill, which is near Austin. We leave Amarillo and go through the way of Lubbock. Between Lubbock and Sweetwater, two different vehicles pass me in the left lane. This is not an interstate, but it's two lanes going each direction and indicate that I need to pull over. I pulled over, and there's a flat tire on one of our trailer
We couldn't see
tires.
it. We were right behind him, but it was in front of the back tire, so no idea it was flat.
It was a gorgeous day. The shoulder was plenty wide. We got way off the highway. It took us about 45 minutes.
We were like a
And,
pit crew.
Yeah.
Gordon had taught us well.
The thing was that both Tony and Gordon, our friends, they had schooled me on what to do in case I had a flat tire. So they said, don't jack it up, just make a ramp out of boards. And if you ramp up one of the axles, the other axle will be suspended, then you can change the tire. And it was like clockwork, and I looked like I knew what I was doing.
Well, we had some throw rugs that I had packed from the house because we thought if we have to stop on the side of the road, you know how you don't know what you're going to be laying on. So he had one that he could sit on and lay and work off of, and then I threw one under the RV and undid the spare tire and was able to drop it onto the rug and pull it out from underneath the RV. And he's like, "What? You already got it unhooked in here?" I can do it. I can do it. It surprised him.
So we got going, hit the road. We had kind of made some fast and supposedly sure rules about how we were going to travel with an RV. One was that we were always going to travel together. And of course, now we're separated. We're in two different vehicles. We were supposed to be doing this adventure together. The other one was that we never arrive after dark. And so we get to Amarillo, it's after dark. We get to Liberty Hill, Texas, it's after dark. And I think even our third night that we traveled, we got there after dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We dropped my mom and dad off at my daughter's house, and then we went on to the RV park that we had reserved. And it was already after, I think
It was about 10 o'clock at night.
yeah, it was 9:45 because 10 o'clock was quiet time. And at 5 miles an hour, we crept into that park, and we knew exactly where we were to be, and we pulled right in there, and we did minimum hookup, just enough to call it a night. The next morning, the people next to us said, "We looked out our window, and there's someone beside us. We didn't even hear y'all come in." So, we did it.
The good news was it was a pull through. So
Yeah.
here you have pickup and trailer. You pull it straight through from one end to the
No
other.
backing up on the first setup.
Even right now, when she said backing up, it makes me get a little tight here on the jaw because it's stressful. And you're doing that and trying to get yourself satisfied and wondering how many people are watching you. So thankfully, first RV park was just a pull through.
Pull-throughs cost a little more money. Sometimes, depending on what RV park you go to. And so now we're able to do back in. And we prefer the pull-throughs. But
right.
we're surviving.
Give me a pull through any day. Any day.
Any day. It's a little hard on the marriage.
We did not have any experience with an RV as far as putting it on the road. So my neighbor, Gordon, he starts educating me, and I'm watching YouTube videos so that I can get a mental image as to how I'm going to drive this rig down the road. And I'm doing this, and I'm telling Gordon that my time is closing in. I've got to get some road time. He has to take me out for a driving lesson. And so we take about a 5-mile trip driving lesson. And it's on 2-lane and then 4-lane roads. He shows me how to start, how to stop, how to set the trailer brake. He shows me all the controls. If we're going down a hill, down a mountain, if we're going to turn right, how to own 2 lanes. If we're going to turn left, how to take the outer lane on a left turn. So I've got all this in my mind, and I'm thinking, am I going to make it? Well, I have an expression, even a preacher can do it. This is a case of even a preacher can do it if he's not too old. This was a test, because at this age, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But we got after it, and we did it. And then when I took off from Colorado Springs and we headed towards Texas, everything was going just fine. And both Selena and I do pretty well if we're both in the pickup and we've got 2 eyes trained on everything that is in front of us. And then, of course, keeping an eye on Gertrude, our RV, our 5th wheel too. So all that went just great. And of course, when we leave Colorado, we have to go up through some mountains, over Raton Pass in New Mexico, and then go down into Texas. We encompassed every kind of terrain that we could have imagined. And every time I'm doing something, I'm thinking about my training. So everything went just fine, but there was a huge learning curve, and I had a lot of anxiety about that, but everything was okay. We just kept trusting the Lord to take care of us on our journey. And then also, I say this, when you break down or you run out of fuel, and I've been known to do that a time or two, you make new friends. That's what you do. You make friends with whoever is kind enough to stop and help you. So Selena said at some point, she says, I want to learn how to drive Gertrude, or actually the truck to pull Gertrude. And so we were changing parks. They were just 4 miles apart. So Selena, how did that go?
He let me drive because it was only 4 miles and it was all right-hand turns. So he let me drive Gilbert with Gertrude attached. And I loved it. You don't even know she's back there, for one thing, but just follows you really easy. You don't have to really worry too much about needing a lot of space to make a turn. Of course, I made that one left-hand turn out of the park onto the road and took it on the far side. I've watched him a lot in our travels, and I've learned a lot by watching him, and I thought I did fantastic. Pulled it into the new RV park and got to the space where we were supposed to be, and I was going to do the backup and back it in because we have been practicing with him driving, backing in, which is a huge learning curve. And when you know, people were sitting out side of their rig.
We had an audience.
Yeah. And not only did we have an audience, but then another rig came up behind us.
Waiting.
Of course, we're blocking the road because it's mainly a one-way road. A lot of the RV parks are one way this way and one way that way. And then another vehicle came behind that vehicle. And I was having a difficult time, my first time. And I finally just said, okay, Carl, you do it. And what I should have done was just taken a circle and come back. And then all the traffic behind me would have been gone, because I can do it. I can do it, but I don't want an audience. And I definitely don't want to hold up people behind me. But I'm going to get there. I think I want a big empty parking lot with some orange cones. That's the way to learn it. Someday, maybe.
I'm ready for her to drive so I can read a book.
Like he would
And I
be
can
calm
ta-
enough
I
to
can
read a
take a
book.
nap. I can take a
I don't
nap.
think so.
I was starting to look out the window and seeing all the stores and trees and landscape and like, wow, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be paying attention. I already had confidence in her after just 2 miles.
We've enjoyed telling y'all our story today. We're going to throw in a few pictures here and there. And we're
So,
through. No,
we're
you
through.
got more to say?
We're through sharing now.
We're through sharing now. And remember, give us a thumbs up, comments, and subscribe, and keep on following us. We're gonna get through our trips pretty soon. Making these videos is a little harder than what we anticipated. Love to everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Got it. Okay. This one's gonna go easy. Ready?
Yep.
It's done. Okay.